Hello, hello, hello. My gorgeous guest is here. I have to say, um, you've had some well-respected colleagues reach out. Now, I'm going to stick my foot in it a tiny bit here. I have Tor Thom on our call, and he is a well-known male narrator. And there is, if you've ever been in the audiobook community or known a narrator, especially a female narrator that does dual romance, where for people in the audience that don't, dual romance is the female and the male are both working on the book. Sometimes, most often, they split the chapters for the point of view. I do mostly thrillers. So the male narrators that I've worked with have not been the steady romance narrators. So they've not, and the thing that romance narrators, please correct me if I'm wrong, but in my impression is that they get a lot of work because they have deep, sexy, manly voices, and women are buying the books. I'm not being facetious here, but people want the romance, and we're buying the romance to hear, people that sound like Tor, our Prince Charmings and everything. And so they get a lot of work. But there is a small thing on the female side because there's a lot of communication necessary when you're doing a book together. And sometimes, oh, yes, good, very good point, Kim. Thank you. There are a bunch of male fans too. Yes. I'm sorry. I knew I'd stick my foot in my mouth, but I broke my own record. So, but the thing is, I'm trying to say this as diplomatically as possible. When we get a book, we are told, here's the narrator you're working with, compare voices, run scripts by them, and liaise a little bit before you both go off and do your own work. And that doesn't happen often. And I'm not privy to the men's conversations. Maybe there are a lot of male narrators out there complaining that females aren't communicating or getting back to them. I'm only privy because I'm, in the women's groups and everything to the other side, except for Tor Thom. I think some of the adjectives used were he's a doll, he's brilliant, he puts all the others in the shade, he's a joy to work with, he's the nicest guy I've ever worked with, he always takes extra time, he's professional. I think a stand-up guy was something somebody said. I had Anne Richardson reach out and say, you've got to have this guy on the call. Um, they love you. They just simply adore you. And I'd like to start from that point, aside from you being an all-around nice guy, hugely talented, and a master at your craft. I'd like to hear about 10-year-old Tor's life, inner world and outer world. What were you thinking? Hopes, dreams? Let's start there.
Wow. That was a segue there. I didn't know all those things or that people have said those things about me. Um, I I don't know a lot of what goes on behind the scenes. I stay pretty busy, and so I know there's chatter about different things, but I'm certainly not a perfect colleague, but I try to do my best for everyone so that we can all achieve our goals and do our jobs and pay our bills and hone our craft and perform for the world. Um, 10-year-old tour. Wow. Um, I was a little boy in Western Oklahoma, the son of a doctor, and the son of a university psychology professor with dreams of being the world's next great soccer phenom and a physician on the
Oh,
side.
oh, wow. Were you like a sports fanatic?
Yes, I really love sports. Yeah, so I played a lot of soccer in that time of my life. I've not thought back to that time, but yes, that was soccer all the time.
Wow. Did you like school? Have a lot of friends?
Yeah, the normal stuff. I've usually been kind of a smaller friend group as opposed to, like quality, I guess, over, excuse me, quality, I guess, over quantity. And that's still true into my adult life. But yeah, no, I did. I love school. Yeah, I loved reading, loved math, all the things.
So soccer was the dream, and I'm sorry, I didn't hear what was the other one. You said there was another dream?
Of being a physician like my father.
Oh,
So,
okay, okay.
yeah.
So where did that, what did you do when you got out of school? Did you go to college? Did you start pursuing one of those?
I did. I graduated high school and enrolled at a local university with a biochemistry major. But there was another part of me that deeply loved history um, and languages. And so I ended up shifting gears after my freshman year, a successful freshman year, and ended up pursuing ancient history and learning Greek and Latin and Hebrew and acquired a number of advanced degrees and actually found myself teaching in the university system as a professor, and I still adjunct to this day in university systems. So I teach ancient history, ancient philosophy, medicine, religion. Those are kind of areas that I operate in.
And this is all very, you're required to work, especially if you're teaching. This goes a long way to explain why you work well with others, to put it frankly.
Well, teaching and faculty participation is ideally collaborative.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is not, but if you can solve problems and work with people, it makes life a little easier.
Okay, so it seems pretty idyllic. Did you have any challenges like along the way? Did you have any dark nights of the soul or things you had to overcome? Or I mean, come on, tell me you had a secret chocolate habit at least.
Well, no, so I shifted from soccer to basketball. And so basketball became my love and kind of my life through high school. And I got to my senior year in high school, and I was being recruited to play college basketball.
Wow.
And the fifth game of my senior year, my knee blew out, and I tore my anterior cruciate ligament, and that brought my basketball career to a close. I tried probably in haste to come back too
Yep.
soon,
Yep.
and I ended up actually tearing it again, and that actually really ended my athletic career in terms of jumping, running, and I had to find other ways of exercising. But that was the dark night of the soul moment where I had to really pivot away from my love of sports and whatever dreams I had as a child, even into young adulthood, and turn toward my mind and other things for the future.
Were you close with to your father?
Yes, yes, I was.
Because it feels like you had a strong foundation, resilience. Am I
Hmm.
fair to say that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'm trying to get the whole picture here. It's kind of fun in a way when I don't know
Sure.
the person at all
No,
because
absolutely. I'm enjoying this. Go
I
ahead.
can jump in at the deep end. So, what things annoy you? What things get on your nerves about people or things or practices? Like,
Um, Rudeness, bigotry, and sexism annoy me very much.
oh yeah, now I'm getting why everyone loves you so much. Okay, yeah. Good answer.
That's those, yeah, they just annoy me because it's a, again, no one is perfect, but some people flaunt their ignorance more readily than others.
Yeah. I think sometimes I've had to have a lot of talks with myself about my reaction to the way, and lately these days it seems like it's more acceptable. Certain behavior is more acceptable. And I've had to talk myself down
Mm-hmm,
because there's no point me getting upset about it. And what I'm starting to realize is that this day and age, it feels like everyone's a- attention is the only currency.
mm-hmm,
And everyone's trying to get it and they're using whatever they've got. And if they don't feel they have anything else to barter for attention,
mm-hmm.
they're going to barter for a reaction.
Of
It's the
course,
quickest way,
absolutely. Yep.
which is, I mean, there's no point blaming social media. I'm Gen X. I don't know what generation,
Mm.
what you identify as, but my little sister was bemoaning the fact, and she's Gen X as well. She was bemoaning the fact that the world's awful. And I don't agree. I don't think it's awful, but I think that Gen X in particular, we're prone to fantasies about the good old days because we were the last generation. Millennial hit the very end of it, but we were the last generation between that pivot point, weren't we?
Yeah,
When
absolutely.
the
We, we,
world
we,
changed.
we were the last of the feral children.
Yeah, I
Where,
loved being feral.
where our parents had to be reminded as the lights went out that do you know where your children are? We were the last of that generation.
Right? And that was the best. Huh?
Yeah, it
And
was.
I feel sorry. But you can't, you have to live the life you were given, right? You have to live in the
Yeah.
generation you were given. And so you've gone through school, you've made a turnaround, you dealt with the dark nights of the soul,
Mhm,
you started teaching.
mhm.
Was there ever a moment that you were like questioning your path, or were you like, what else can I do in addition to this? It
Yeah,
sounds like
no.
you don't have a lot of self-doubt.
Well, I think we all have self-doubt. You just kind of push through it, right?
Yeah.
And so because doubt can be your worst enemy. Um, you know, when you have years and years and years of education in humanities of reading, and it changes you inevitably. You
Mm.
understand human history differently. You understand religion. You understand the world, and everything gets very, very complicated. And I think that's humbling. Um, there were times where I longed to for being a simple med school student or something like that. With a very clear task. Not that it's simple because it's not. Being a physician is arduous and difficult. But the world was simpler before I acquired the languages and the degrees and and there was a longing perhaps for that. Um, my transition into voice acting, maybe is what you're kind of getting at a little bit, was, or maybe not. You can cut me off.
I know I am interested in that, but
Sure.
I'm also thinking about the challenge of unknowing you can't ever unknow what you've learned. And if
Right.
you can learn to a certain point. So I am interested in how you got into voice acting, but I'm really interested in how you set aside the academic mind at some point in the acting process and go into the feeling body of acting out the moment. How is that a challenge?
Yes and no. I mean, I think that the experiences of life, of fear and of disappointment and of anxiety and love and loss, and experiencing those personally, but then understanding them culturally and socially. Um, understanding conflict as an adult, and you can bring that to actual acting. Um, I've, I have, I've told this story before that it was a certain point in my academic career, I traveled with a group of scholars, and we went to Israel, and and I and of course that's a very sensitive subject and this moment, and like most Westerners, I kind of thought I understood the dynamics of the world.
Mhm.
And I could tell you some of the history about how the state of Israel post World War II, but I was staying in a kibbutz, and I actually gave an academic presentation in a bomb shelter with concrete and rebar, and and that was a very real sense of this is a different world than the little world that I grew up in Western Oklahoma. And then we actually went into the West Bank and looked back towards Israel, and realized this is just a different world. And that's just one small example of understanding generational conflict, generational loss, generational frustration. And until you're there and you see and meet people and experience them, there's an inauthenticity in one's attempt to articulate that.
You
But when
become
you
a
actually,
different human being. Like the
yeah,
difference between
yeah,
cats and dogs. I traveled. I grew up traveling, grew up spending summers in Italy, blah, 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 traveled around the world. We lived in a different country for years. But I've lived in the UK now for a long time. And somebody said to me the other day, they said they wanted to travel, but they were worried about traveling and what it does to the environment and everything. And the thought it hit me that I would be an entirely different human being. Like, not even like you wouldn't recognize me if I hadn't traveled. You literally become, and I think even just being in a kibbutz, I don't care how long it was, it changes you as a human being, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I mean, whether you're in Italy, in the ruins of Pompeii, or you're sitting at the foot of the Swiss Alps, or
Yeah.
you're in southern Germany at the ruins of the Nazi concentration camp, those those human moments and the images and the pictures that come with them um, shape who you are, and I think shape the breadth and depth of the way in which you can perform.
On a visceral level. Yes, and
Absolutely.
also every book we do. And I don't discount. I'm not one of those. I think romance and thriller, they're all equal. Literary
Mhm.
fiction, contemporary fiction. Every book you do, well written, not so well written,
Hmm.
informs your soul in a
Hmm.
in a kind of like surface layer bit that because I'm haunted by the people that I'll never become
Mm.
because of the things that I'll never do.
Right. I can understand that.
That's in front of all of us, isn't it? We all have like an ending point. We all have to
We do.
stop. And there are things that I could have been that I'll never be because I'll never have experienced it. And that's, air miles aside and carbon footage
Right.
aside, what are you giving back to the world when you become like a huge everything? You
Hmm.
soak everything up and you give it back out, right? And in your books, you give it back out.
Right.
I can say, oh, you're a doll and the Prince Charming and the voice, but at the end of the day, an audiobook saved me on the worst day of my life. I was long story, boring, won't go over it again, I swear, Kim. Diagnosed brain tumor, go
Okay.
home. What the hell do you do with yourself before the surgery for 2 days? Audiobook. This
There you
voice
go.
is pulling me out. Your voice, whether you're doing a love story, a dual romance, anything, could save someone.
Hmm.
How did
Yeah.
you
No,
get
that's
into it?
how did I get into it?
Yeah.
There's the good question.
Now we'll get to the point.
Yeah. No, it literally was an accident. So I had some acting experience as a child and on the small stage in community theater. And then as I narrated, ended up going in a different direction and really moved away from the acting world. Not completely. I mean, still doing public speaking here or there, different things, but largely, not really doing that. And there was a taco shop in the little town where I was teaching, and
This is not where I saw this going.
and I would go on Tuesdays because it's Taco Tuesday, and I would order tacos. And um, every time I would go to the window to pay, there would be a gaggle of young ladies. And I thought, my cerebral brain, like this is the most poorly run establishment. They have to be losing money because there's all these people here to take my money and to give me tacos. And one day, the young woman who was working, I guess the intercom, to the mic with the drive-through, I assume she didn't let her hand off of the button, and so I could still kind of hear what was happening on the inside. And she yelled out, "It's the guy with the voice." And so
Uh,
then I realized in that moment that she was summoning, different people from inside the restaurant to come to the window and
you
see,
had a fan
the guy with the
club.
voice or whatever. And it was at that moment that I realized, hey, um, something could come of this.
Isn't that funny? Because you didn't even realize that all the female
I don't know if I
narrators love
lost.
working with you, did you?
I had no idea that that was the case.
Yeah, no, because, well, you know what? I can understand how it's disheartening when you send an email saying I'm ready to work and then the person doesn't get back to you or gets back and says, "Well, I've already done it all. We'll just do it my way."
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, again, I don't think I'm perfect. But I mean, I try to respond. Usually, I mean, I try to have a 24-hour rule. Again, I'm not perfect, but I try. Um, that if someone responds and, then you go back and forth. And so I often find myself, maybe just because of workflow or volume of work behind my female colleagues. And so in that case, I just say, I trust you. Thank you for, carving the way if I can help at all, you
It's
know.
that communication, though, and that acknowledgement that the person you're working with is a professional equal on
Of course.
an equal basis and worthy of, you know, of talking to. That I think that is what you do right. That's what I think that's all anyone's asking for. I can't say that I've ever experienced it because I've only done a few dual and they've been fabulous. My biggest concern was, and I hope I haven't offended them, but my first thing is please don't try to make the female girls sound really, 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 really high because then I'll sound more manly than you. And that's my biggest, when I go to do the book and I sound like a guy. And
Yeah, no, I mean, you can hear my voice. I, I don't pass as a female really at all. I mean, in terms of my attempted, I mean, I can do falsetto or something like that. And so all I can do is sort of subtle taps that kind of indicate that this is a different voice in play for the reader. But I will say I am simply in awe of my female colleagues. Some of them can do male voices that are completely passable as male voices, and I'm in awe of them. I'm in awe of their talent too. So um, most of the male narrators I know in the romance space, and I consider friends, but and they're all very, very, very talented, but the females are just incredible in my
I
opinion in the
don't want to
romance
make
space.
any enemies. So for the record, I don't have any particular male narrator in mind, and I love you all.
Yeah, yeah. So no, I mean it's I the women in the romance space. I mean this is widely recognized. Don't get enough credit, don't get enough attention, and often exist with a sizable pay gap,
Yeah. And
and that creates other issues.
I'm doing I just started a romance and I've got to say I love it. And I do have a bad habit of because I'm a little spoiled with like the heavy, heavy serial killer thrillers.
Hmm.
I swear on this one, I'm not waiting for someone to be killed. I'm like really enjoy actually somebody already died. I think that might be why. But but I'm
Sometimes.
enjoying it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
We
I mean,
all
it's romances of all shades and genres. I mean, the romance space is broad. And at
yeah,
this point, as someone who also has feet kind of in the publishing world, romance is really the only genre that
it's
is
growing.
that is truly thriving. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not to say that there aren't thrillers and there aren't biographies that do well. That's not to say that at all. It's just across the board, the demand for romance is just astronomical. And that is, though it's not exclusively, female, the demographics are overwhelmingly female in terms
Because
of the
we all
percentage of
want
buyers.
love.
Yeah.
We all want love. I mean, who doesn't want love?
Yeah, no, it's true. But I think there's a deeper thing too, that we are, and I've said this on some panels at some conventions, we're having a gender moment in the Western world, and particularly in the United States, that is being caused by social, cultural, political factors. And I think romance books of their various types, even the dark romance and the anti-hero kind of stuff, is speaking to women in that moment, the moment that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I do like that. And I do, I'm very, very cautious not to pigeonhole. any one genre because
Hmm.
I know that with thrillers. Those that's just the book that I would buy if I'm looking at the bookcase and I want to buy a book I'm desperate for. It's going to be an edgy, hard-hitting thriller with something weird and twisted in it, but it also should be good.
Hmm.
I want literature. I want quality. I want emotion. I wouldn't mind a little heartbreak. I want it. You want everything in every book, don't you? You want to be just made to feel, right?
You want to lose yourself for a moment
Yeah.
and to feel and be captivated. I mean, it's just like going to a movie, whether it's an hour and a half, 2 hours or longer. For just a moment, the world stops and you immerse yourself in a different world, in a different set of characters, and then your brain can think and relax, and it's pleasant.
The Agatha Raisin series is that for me. I think there's like 32 books now, Penelope Keith. I'm not a cozy, comfy, like, I think that's the only one I've ever bought, but I've
Mm-hmm.
listened to that series front to back, and I've just recently finished listening to it again backwards
Oh,
because, I started at like the top book and just kept
right,
going.
right.
But I listen before I go to sleep at night, and you get it's like I think people have favorite movies or TV shows, huh, that you watch on
Mm-hmm.
always makes you feel the way you felt when you first saw it.
Yep. No, absolutely. I think that's exactly right.
Yeah. Romance, I can pretend I'm young and full of possibility and hope.
But I mean, some romances is really dark, and some romance allows people to have a catharsis for their own dark moments.
Yeah.
And so I've learned as a romance narrator. I I was looking the other day. I think I'm somewhere in the 600s in terms of the number of romance books that I've narrated. And
So
what
cool.
I've learned a lot about women and I've learned a lot about the genders and the perceptions of gender. But I've also learned how different types of stories that really aren't Hallmark stories can still be cathartic for the soul of the listener. And not just an escape and not just pleasant and not even necessarily a happy ending, but allows even listeners to work through trauma in an interesting way. Yeah.
Because every single book is honestly different. And
Hmm.
then you gotta marvel at the writer. I mean, I've got to say the last serial killer one I did was so well written. I did midway through start to worry that I was a little late on that deadline because I didn't want to piss this guy off.
Hmm. There you go.
Because you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
do
no,
wonder,
it's writers. I mean, they channel the muses, and I always applaud them because I mean, it's their courage to create a world, right? I mean,
yeah,
they create a world in their brain, and then they bring it to text, and then they ask you to inhabit it and to move forward with it. And that's an incredibly courageous act
right? They're
because
putting their sense of self right on the
absolutely
line.
right, and in their imagination and their creative arts, and so all the credit goes, in my opinion, to the authors. We're just asked to perform it,
Yeah.
but we don't create it, and we don't get the response of this world isn't believable. You know, these characters, are inconsistent. Like, there's a real talent there that I applaud.
Yeah. And staring down the blank page
Hmm.
and having the focus and the attention to, I mean, which is a bit ironic saying that as a narrator. A lot of people don't have focus and attention to do an
Hmm.
entire audiobook, but it's a different kind of focus and attention
It
because the
is
burden of the vulnerability isn't on us.
right.
The burden of vulnerability is on them. As long as I've got the author, that's the most important thing to me is that my author is happy. I
Right. Right. No,
I
that's
should
that,
care more
that's
about the
true. And so,
reviews, but
um,
but
reviews are tricky business.
but the thing
Reviews are
is,
tricky business. So,
the one thing with romance, though, with your genre, especially with the male voice, and I say that, I don't know why I say that especially, but that's another thing I've heard that like reviewers pay particular attention to the male voice, and sometimes the female voice isn't treated as the most important aspect of the book. which I find incredibly unfair, but I also think it's a societal thing. It's not a any person thing, it's a societal thing. It's the world doesn't rate women.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a result of, I mean, different media attract gender gazes in different ways, right?
Mhm.
And so, for instance, football, right? And it's not to say that there aren't female football fans, but that is that the industry of football, the way football is produced, it's designed to capture a male gaze and to keep a male engaged and entertained. And
Mm.
for good or bad, the romance genre is female driven and female consumed. And so fixating on male characters, fantasy male characters, book boyfriends, you know, I think that's an inevitable byproduct of the way in which the entire thing is structured. And it is unfortunate because it means that the incredible actresses who perform in, with, and opposite, um, the male actors in different roles can be overshadowed. But I think that's, again, you know, if for every 100 purchases, of an audiobook romance, how many are men, how many are women, right? And
Mm.
eventually the disparity in that percentage is going to play itself out in reviews.
Mm. But then there is the element of women judging other women more harshly than even the world judges other women.
Yeah, and that is something I recognize but can't speak to. Um,
Mm.
just from one of the things I've learned in life, at least I hope I've learned, is not to assume that I understand what someone else is or is not thinking, and certainly not to assume that I know what it's like to be a woman because I have no clue. That's not the world I live in, but I I do understand and hear a sense of competitiveness and tearing people down, and the notion of who's a girl's girl and who's not, and um, but I've not, of course, experienced those things directly.
I think, and I say this with my inherent knowledge in burlesque, that that being a woman, women's relationships with other women, you will always have women that hate your guts for no reason. You just will. And I think it's because society pit us against each other because society didn't give us equal chances of having power.
Mm,
So when you don't feel that you're in power, scarcity, sometimes you scrabble your way up. But then my experience in the burlesque world and the cabaret world
mhm,
was completely inherently different because people that had always felt without power and left out and on the sidelines were so generous. There was
mm,
enough beauty, enough gorgeous to go around. There was enough for all of us. And that camaraderie between women, I think it might be the same as when you're on a sports team,
mm,
playing football. That camaraderie can be so strong and so beautiful. And so I think it's like with the politics and with the reviews and with all the stuff, the negative stuff that goes on. I think like the place that I found peace very recently, I've stopped my addiction to listening to American news and now I'm finding peace. But the place that I found
right,
peace is to not hide my head. I'm aware
mhm,
of the inequities and I choose to pay attention to the gorgeous people all around me
mhm.
holding each other up. And there's so many. The news doesn't tell us.
Oh, of course
There's
not.
so
No.
many. The news doesn't go on. The reviewers and the people complaining about reviews and romance and blah, 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 they don't tell us about all the female narrators going, you should interview Tor Thom. You should talk to him. What a magnificent, all that positive energy lifting you up that you weren't even aware of. I think each one of us has all these helpers, positive people on our side, and we don't even realize it because we're just paying attention to the algorithms. I've just talked for 30 minutes, haven't I? Sorry, Tor.
You're fine. You're fine.
You
I'm enjoying
said
it.
one of those calls.
I'm enjoying it.
So, how do you deal with reviews? Do you pay attention to your reviews? Do you
Um,
care?
you know, I don't often read reviews, frankly. Every once in a while, I'll dip in and just kind of look at different things, and really just trying to pick up, are there any consistent things that I can learn from what's being said that could allow me to grow, you know? And through the stages of the years of narration, I have, thought, okay, I'm consistently hearing this thing, 6 months apart, slightly different genres. And so maybe this is a really important critique. And so the hard part is sort of getting those nuggets, out of the review that says something like Tor Thom, like scratching your nails on a chalkboard, and it's like, what do I do with that? And so that's it's really difficult
Yeah,
to kind of
she should
process.
never be allowed to speak out loud ever again in her entire life.
Right.
Somebody needs to
That's
put duct
yeah,
tape
yeah,
on her mouth.
yeah. I mean, it just and so sometimes you're like, wow. I mean, this person really doesn't like me. I'm like, I'm sorry, I exist. But no, I mean, I think reviews can be helpful if you use them well. But if you're having a down day or you're not feeling well or a bit melancholy or whatever, that's probably not the day to do the deep dive in the reviews.
Even the good ones can be detrimental, can't they?
Oh,
Because
they
it
can.
takes you out, doesn't it? Puts you in like your ego.
Well, it can, and then and I really, and I it frustrates me whenever I'm on a book and I know because I've listened to it that the female counterpart was just phenomenal, and then the reviews only saying something about me, and I'm just like, oh, come on, like she was amazing. Or they'll actually say, I couldn't stand, and they just take a shot, and that happens the other way sometimes too. But it's just reviews are reviews. They're people's opinions, and they have they purchase it. They have a right to review it. So,
I haven't, because that review that I mentioned was, I think, my first book.
mm,
And I'd gotten a really good one, and then I got that, and I quit theater for 5 years because of a reviewer that hated my guts in a lead. He said that I had the most horrible fake American accent he'd ever heard. Um, I
wow,
should have just laughed, but no, I went all dramatic for 5 years and never tread the boards again. I'm done.
wow,
But I'm American, idiot.
right, right.
But so I have a thin skin. I'm aware of that. I have a friend, fellow narrator, and we used to do it every month. Now it's like less often. I'll check his reviews. He'll check mine. If there's something I need to know, he'll tell me because I'm a crazy person. I can't take it with a grain of salt. I get all offended, and Kathy in Wuthering Heights with the window open, I'm just going to freeze myself to death because you people don't know what
You
I've
don't
been
know art when
through.
you see it. You don't know stage brilliance when it's in front of you. Yeah, no,
Yes, that's
no.
pretty much exactly it, and I'm pretty sure the hand is.
The hand is there. Yes, and the fainting
But
with it. Yes.
you can't, can you? You can't live or die by it. You can't. So where do you tell me how are you different than when you started as a narrator, taking those reviews into account and grow? How long have you actually been doing it years wise? 600 is a lot.
Yeah, so 2016, 2017 is when I broke in. So I'm quickly approaching that kind of decade. And
You started when I did, and you've gotten zillions of books. Wow,
well,
you must work your ass off.
I do. I work 40, 50 finished hours a month,
Yeah.
uh, pretty consistently, which is, it's just good. It helps me, it helps my family. Yeah, I just, there's good and bad, and you kind of there's a volume where you start to realize like this is in some ways kind of like the ocean tides reviews, and picking out the moments that matter.
Does
But just
anything come to mind? Any changes you've made?
I
Anything
mean,
you've learned?
early on, you get feedback about like mic placement, let's say, and I came up the quote unquote hard way, through ACX back in the day, and so I was really kind of learning the ropes as from my taco incident about jumping jumping in, and so if you get a series of reviews across books saying mic placement, well, you do some work, you talk to a coach, or whatever, and you figure out the hand rule, and then and you learn how to locate your mic, and or someone consistently says he talks too fast, or you learn to start to slow down, and so those things have been pretty helpful. um, but yeah, that's kind of the limit. The one of the things that I've seen that's transitioned in terms of narration, um, well, one, I'll say it has nothing to do with narration, but has everything to do with how you advertise in social media. When I began, as you did, we were really told to stay off of social media. We had presence, but we weren't really supposed to advertise, weren't supposed to like, and then the world of influencers and the rise of social media has changed all of that. And so now increasingly you have to be ever present. I've done this book and go listen to this and that. And so that's been a bit of a challenge. But there's been also a shift that I've noticed and I don't know how much it's been in other genres, but it's certainly been more in romance, of leaning more and more and more and more into kind of an immersive, fully emotional, non-traditional kind of audiobook. Um, and so there are kind of three different camps now in the romance world. There's, people who are heavy, really full on, almost like drama movie acting on one side, and then some think that they're overacting. And then there's the more traditional, kind of subtle nuances of emotion as you're kind of moving
Yeah.
through. And then there's kind of a middle hybrid group.
Yeah,
Um,
the traditional flatter,
yeah,
flatter. Can you go
yeah,
flatter?
yeah,
You
yeah.
go flatter. But like, okay, I wake up like this. I'm like this.
Right.
Oh my
Right.
God. What are we gonna? This is me. This is
Right.
my personality. So if I'm gonna go flat, really, do you think somebody's gonna believe that? Because
Well, that's the but that's and so that's and so there are these three kind of different camps.
yeah.
Now, what can be awkward beyond just like, okay, here's my word list and here's the sets of pronunciation and how are you doing this character and how are you
It's
differentiating
if
that
you're
character?
flat and I'm
Yeah.
falling off the edge of the seat.
And I will say it gets really awkward if you're in a full-on multicast and
Yeah.
everybody's not on the same energy page on that kind of spectrum. And that's harder for houses to modulate because they're not directing. I mean, the human capital doesn't allow them to individually direct every single scene.
But can I challenge that though?
Sure.
I've been really, really working on this. Really, really working on this. And I think it's beyond the flat energy and to the and it's funny you say that because it goes back to listening to your reviews and learning from them. I'm going to admit this and I'm going to want to edit this out. Don't let me edit this out. I don't care if I get canceled. It's when I first started narrating, the book is no longer on. It was one of my very first books. There was a character in it who was a certain religion. I won't say what religion, that I didn't understand. And the character was written as a person that felt like a caricature to me.
Hmm.
And one of the reviews was, just because I'm such and such religion doesn't mean we're all stupid.
Mm.
And I had to clock myself because, yes, I did assume this character was stupid because of the character. It was the writing itself, in my defense,
Hmm.
sounded like a stupid character, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't their religion. I wasn't like, oh, this person, I'm not that person. I'm not
Right.
that person. I don't assume things about people unless I've lived their lives. But that haunts me to this day. And when I go in to do a book, I'm doing a romance now, it's outside my normal genre. Um, I'm really, really working to feel like I'm that person.
Hmm.
And that, I think, bypasses flat, energy, dramatic. If I'm genuinely being that person and genuinely reacting as I would, then no matter how flat or over the top you get, I'm genuinely reacting.
Right. And that's and the trick is the interaction of that, which is a truth and character, almost kind of like a method acting. I mean, really getting in
Yeah.
and the expectation of listeners. So I recently did a it was a male romance, and the lead was a demisexual who had serious issues with emotional expression.
Can I ask, what's a demisexual?
Um, well, that'll be like a devolution of all of our time here, but
Okay.
but he he struggled with emotion. And so the author contacted me and wanted me to do the role, and and really crafted exactly how they wanted this character to sound. But it sounds nothing like a traditional book boyfriend, right? And so reviewers have been livid because they somehow wanted this person who struggles to say like I love you, or struggles to actually like, you know,
But you have to honor the character. That's not who the
I
character
know.
was.
I know. And that was and the author loves it. Absolutely
Right.
loves
And
it.
see, right there, that's where I am. That's I don't read the
Yeah.
reviews. As long as my author hears what they wrote, then I'm happy.
Yes. Yeah. And so I mean once the author could develop that strong emotional reaction, then the author could express himself sexually and emotionally, like but there had to be like this trust. And until the character got there, you weren't going to get it. But it's not at all like this is your next book boyfriend and swoon and
You've made me feel a little teary here because it really did, because I am on a quest to challenge myself to stick to that and to know it's right. But it gets scary sometimes because
oh
the
yeah,
the the quest of knowing what you really, really think you should do and what you want the author to hear because you know they wrote it, and in their head, all the things you've been taught and all the things you know people are expecting and all the competition that's doing vocal fry, and you're not delivering quirky girlfriend for the best friend, and that all those voices are in your head. But hearing that is what matters, isn't it? You
well yeah, it does. And in this case it was the actual author saying this is exactly like here's a sample, and the author going no, less, do this less, and literally crafting exactly what they heard, and then it going out in the world, and then fans going, this should be re-recorded. This is an embarrassment to audiobooks. You know what I mean? And you're just like, wow. I mean, you know, but that's
that
just the
well
nature of
then
that's the nature of the
that
beast.
Yeah, and that's feedback for the writer. Do I choose to go my own path or do I choose to
Yeah.
change my writing for the, and
Yeah.
isn't that like the every artist's
Hmm.
challenge throughout eternity? Do I make myself commercially available for the masses or do I stick to my craft?
Right.
As woo-woo as that sounds, that's what we're challenged with, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I choose craft every single time. That and the guy that the 10,000 hours put on the ground in the booth guy. Who's the 10,000 hour guy? I can never remember him. But there's a guy that wrote a book, and the whole premise is it takes 10,000 hours of doing anything to become a master.
Oh, got it. Got it. Okay. Yeah, that
And I
makes sense.
love that. I always think of that because, we hear people, I mean, because you're a sought after narrator, it doesn't sound like you've got a lot of like dry spells. But when people do have dry spells, it boggles my mind when they're like, I have nothing to do. What do you mean you have nothing to do?
Mm.
So do every single public domain book there is to be done, and then you maybe have nothing to do. But have you contacted all the writers to see if they want their work done? There's always something to do as long as you're getting your 10,000 hours in the booth.
True. Smart, wise words.
And I love that you work 40 hours a month. I love that because you're doing it naturally, getting your time in the booth. Do you sit or stand?
I sit.
Do you sit? Really? Do you like that?
I do. I mean, I have uh, I guess a chair that sort of makes my posture kind of sit in a certain way, and so I don't end up like, with the diaphragm all crunched
Yes.
up. And so,
That's why I stand because I would be like that.
yeah, no, it sort of makes me, be where I need to be. Yeah.
I love that. So what's your day like? Do you like wake up and record first thing in the morning? Do you have a ritual? Do you have a favorite coffee cup? What's
No, that
your
yeah.
magic?
So, this is a vice. So you wanted a vice. You ready for the vice?
Yes, yes. Give
Is
us the
I
dark
wake up in the
stuff.
morning and I have a Monster Energy drink, and that is my. I know it's awful. That is my
What is it?
coffee.
Is that like Red Bull?
It is, and it's very, very bad for you. But it's just like instant tachycardia, You're just like, you know, um, you're ready to go. But no, so my day is actually balanced. And so I work as an executive at a publishing company.
Oh, wow.
And so part of my day involves contracts and manuscripts and authors and agents, the joy of my life, and kind of negotiating those things and working that out, and then life in the booth. And so, a normal day, I'll do a normal 8 to 5, and then do the kid thing, and get my children to sleep, and then about 7:30 or 8, I hit the booth.
Oh, I can see you as a dad. I can see
Yeah.
you as a dad. You've got that whole calm kind of dad thing going on.
Well, I try to be. It's hard. So I have an older son and I have 7-year-old twins.
I bet you're a really cool dad. Are
I
you
hope
really
so.
cool?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I can see you as a cool dad.
So-
Oh, I have
Sometimes
to
they think I'm
interject.
cool. Sometimes they think I'm like dad.
Oh, well, that's normal. Kim says, "Thank you, Kim. I knew you wouldn't let us down." Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh,
I need,
yes, yes,
I
yes.
need to actually read that book because I've never read it. I've just got the one little thing and I quote it on every single call. Okay, so energy drink, work at a big publishing company. Are you done with academia altogether?
No, I still I often adjunct during the semester, not during the summers or the Christmas break or whatever, and that's usually Tuesday, Thursday during lunch.
On top of the 40 hours of, when do you narrate again?
About 8 to 1 at
Oh my
night,
God. When do you sleep?
1 to 7, 1 to 8.
So you're doing that thing that I keep fooling myself that someday I'm going to do. You actually do what you say you'll do during the hours you say you'll do them. Do you have a
I
strict schedule? Are you
I
good at
have to.
following it?
Yeah, I have to. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
strict.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a grind.
So, oh yeah, Kim says, hence the Monster Energy drink. Yes, I think we've. So, okay, I'm so glad we had this call because I have to confess, I have a bad tendency to get the worst off social media. Like I go on telling myself I'm going to post about something, and then I soak up all this little romance, social media groups, this is what's happening in the world, AI, blah, 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 buy this pink faux fur, whatever, the algorithm's
Hmm.
sending. And I love having a conversation that goes deeper than that
Of course. That's the
because
substance
we
of
have to
life.
be reminded, though, don't we?
Hmm.
It's easy to forget.
Hmm.
Do you spend any time taking in social media?
Very, very little. Very little. It's just so, so hard. I mean, I don't have a lot of bandwidth, you know, in
Well,
terms
no
of,
wonder.
yeah, but and it keeps me off of social media a lot. And I think that actually is at least in this moment, a very healthy way of living.
Yeah. And I think I've might have put my finger on the reason that I'm not getting as much done as I'd like to during the days because I want to schedule like yours. I really do. I want to schedule like yours. Now I do all the recording and that's it
And that, well,
all
that's,
day.
and that's, I mean, and that is full-time good work. I don't. I don't envy necessarily like my schedule. There are exigencies in life that sort of dictate this moment for me. And I hope the day will come when this is not the reality, but for now it is. And so I'm regimented and routined.
Okay, so I have a final question that nobody gets away without asking. And then, but before I ask that, I want to say thank you so much. This call, if anybody doesn't realize, you really, really made it happen in short notice. Um, this was a slot that I had, and I was anxious to get you in,
Sure,
and because your public demanded it, and we wanted
sure,
to
sure.
chat with you. But you really made it happen. I could tell you were busy, and you went out of your way to get here, and I'm very, very grateful.
Nice.
And this has been a fantastic call. And I'm going to ask a big ask here, Tor.
Sure.
Can you please leave us with, if people take away nothing else from this call except one piece of advice or one thought, what would you like them to leave with? People that are watching this on YouTube in 100 years or so, what would you like them to remember about this moment with this call?
I will offer the words I say at the end of every college class, and that is take care of yourself and others.
I don't think you can say much more than that, can you? That. Do you know how much that would solve?
Right?
Just that.
It's pretty simple.
It would solve everything.
Hmm.
We make it much more difficult than it has to be, don't we? Yeah. This has been, this was the call I needed. This was the call we all needed. This was magic. You, now I get why all the people in the romance world were like, he's amazing. Yeah.
Well, you're very, very kind to me, so I
No,
appreciate
it's
you.
true. I've got proof I can show.
No,
I've got receipts.
I'll take your word for it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I've got receipts. You are well liked.
Thank you.
People like working with someone that they respect, that respects them back, that respects the work. I think at the end of the day, you know,
Yeah, I
respect.
deeply respect my colleagues, so thank you for sharing that with me.
Yep, yep. Lots of love back from them and from all of us. Thank you so much for your time, Tor. You are amazing. And thank you to the gorgeous studio audience. Can't wait for this one to be out. This has been lovely. You've made
Absolutely.
my week. Thank you. Bye. Mwah. Bye, everyone. Bye,
Bye
Tor.
bye.